Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are joined by Ayla, who is going to help us chat with Alexis Murphy. Alexis is the wife of 6 years to her husband, Samuel Murphy. She's the mother of 6 children, Zechariah, Zipporah, Zoe, Zane, who is deceased, Zion, who is deceased through miscarriage, and Zariah, who is due December 7th. She is the author of her first book, I Choose to Live, Out of the Shadows into the Light. She also is voice for mothers that have experienced child loss. In her spare time, Alexis enjoys writing, singing, and spending time with her family. So Alexis is going to share her story with us and talk to us about her book today. So Alexis, why don't you tell us your story?
Well, this journey, I Choose to Live, this is my book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, so I'll tell you more at the end about that. But this journey started 4 years ago. My brother, Tom, he died in 2014, and he died of AIDS. And so he was very secretive about it. He was in the church, and he didn't want anyone to know that he had HIV. He told his family, but he really wasn't honest with himself. And so he died at 35. And so at his death and at his funeral, it had been 5 years since I'd seen him. So the last time I saw him, he was in a casket. So when I looked at his body, I was like, he died with so many secrets. So I was like, God, I don't want to live like this. So help me to be honest about our childhood, the things I'd been through, because I had never talked about all the things I had overcame. And so when I got home, I just started this journal, and then I did some YouTube videos, and it just, what I thought was about my brother turned out to be about me. And so I just kept writing, and I just kept putting all my feelings down. And in 4 years, it turned into this. And that's my inspiration behind it is my brother. And so instead of, he made a choice to die. And so I said, I'm going to make a choice to live. So that's why I named it I Choose to Live, Out of the Shadows and Into the Light.
I'm keeping myself muted that way if the baby gets noisy, just so you know. So, because I'm over here saying, yeah, but you can't hear me.
Okay. It's okay.
So, anyway, sorry. I just wanted to let you know that
it's okay.
What's going on over here. So, all right, I'll let you continue.
Okay. And so, my book, is about overcoming a lot of things through Christ Jesus. It really, the beginning of the book, I talk about how my mom, when she discovered that she had me, because she had 2 boys and she had 2 girls, and I was the 4th baby. And by the time she had me, she just moved back she probably already been back because I don't really know, but she had came out of a first marriage, and he was military, and she had moved back to her hometown from Maryland, and then she got with my dad, and then she realized that she was pregnant, and she tried to use, I don't know, some kind of method of vinegar and salt. That's what I heard. And then she confirmed it herself to abort me because she didn't want me. I know it's crazy, but she said that I was already there, so she couldn't kill me, and so she went ahead and had me. And and then she became a Christian. The crazy thing is when she became a Christian, because that's why even in my Christian journey now, I really struggled with who God is because of what I grew up on, the culture. So we grew up Pentecostal, and she became saved, and and it was crazy growing up Pentecostal, just serious, especially in the African American community, because number one, we believe in jumping and shouting and spitting and slobbing everywhere.
Right. A lot of my family's Pentecostal, so I get what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they believe in rolling on the floor and just slobbing and showing some kind of sign of the Holy Ghost. And we saw that growing up as kids. And I remember one time where my mom used to just force us to get at the altar and just call Jesus. And so it was this older lady, she would get in that, just, and I'm like, your breath stank. First of all, I can't concentrate. It was just,
That's hilarious.
but it was just, it was horrible. And we had to show this sign of slobbing, and that was the sign that we received Christ in our life. And so then when we would get home, I wrote this story in the book at the beginning where the pastor, he would give oil out, and so my mom made us drink it. And my sister was like, I don't want to drink that. And then my mom was like, because she didn't comply, it was like, you're the devil, because you're not being obedient to what I'm telling you to do. And it just got really bad. It got, and then my mom she was so devoted to the church till where she was giving away she was only getting child support from her fathers, which is my father and their father, because I have a different dad from them. But she was literally just giving away everything to the church. And I remember one time we were starving off grits. She would just buy up bags of grits, and we ate it with sugar. We ate it with everything. And then the preacher tried to take it a step further, because my mom was always hanging under the preacher. Always under the preacher. And so he sexually touched her the wrong way, and it threw her off mentally. So we stopped going to church, and then she just became mentally paranoid. Like, she would say stuff like, people are marking me. And I remember my brother, he would say, Mom, we'll wear orange today, because nobody hardly wears orange. Like if I have on blue and you had on blue, in her mind, it was like somebody is marking her. So it was horrible. It was really horrible. And then it just got to a point where my 3 brothers and sisters, my 2 brothers and my sister, because they have a different father, they jumped out the window overnight. Their dad came and got them on a motorcycle bike and jumped them out the window. So my mom woke up and they were gone. And she had a breakdown. I'm talking about a nervous breakdown. I mean, horrible, to where she was locking me up in the house. She wouldn't let me go to school. And I was having seizures at the time too. So she stopped getting my medication. She just didn't want to do nothing for me. And as a child, I felt like, why am I born into this? I didn't ask for this. I'm still here. I wanted my mom to take care of me, but it's like she couldn't move beyond the hurt. She already had her own personal hurt with her first marriage, church misunderstanding, the preacher then tried to sleep with you, and it just messed her up. And so it got so bad to where I had to move. DHR stepped in and took me from her. They told her, she would have to get help or she would lose me. And so they said, well, do you want her to stay? And she said that she wanted me to stay with my grandmother. And so I was excited because I was isolated. But when I moved over to my grandmother and I got older, I couldn't understand why she placed me with her mother, because my mother could not stand her mother. She never let us go and be with my grandmother at the beginning. She told us horrible stories about her, how she took her money. And then I'm like, now you gonna place me in the home with her? So yeah, it's a lot. And then I went to go stay with her. So at the beginning, it looked like, oh, this is gonna work out. But what I didn't realize is those same issues that my mom was dealing with it started from her mother. So she, with her poor mentality, she saw opportunity to make money. So she said, hey, she's on this, she has seizures. I'm going to get her a check, and I'm going to train her to keep this check. That was the goal. And after I had stopped having seizures at 18, but she wanted me to keep the mindset of you're nothing, you're crazy, you can't do anything, you can't work. And then at the same time, we were still going to church. So when I'm at home, she was trying to program me that when I stepped out, that you are crazy. And so all I ever did was just go to church, go to school, and come home. And then when we went to church, I remember one time my grandmother, she was a minister as well, and she would say stuff like, well, you have to have faith in God as a grain of a mustard seed. So I'm listening, and I'm like, maybe God can heal me from these seizures. So I came home, and I said, grandmother, I said, do you think God can heal me from the seizures? And she said, that's not for you. So, yeah, so she was just trying to control my faith in God. And then at the same time, she was gone. Her husband was molesting me at the age of 15 all the way to about 18. So while she was gone, she picked out my clothes. She didn't teach me how to cook. Her goal was to keep me getting a check, keep me in a dumb set mind. And I believe later on, I believe that she knew that I was getting molested because she wanted to cause more trauma to me. The more trauma you cause, then the more you can't function in life, and then that gives me an opportunity to keep my check.
That's just so sad.
Yes.
My heart bleeds for you. That I cannot even imagine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so I went through all that, but my breaking point came at 18. My child molester, which is her husband, he was doing horrible things to me. I really go into details in the book. It's really still hard to talk about, but I had the strength to just put it in the book. But it was getting so bad to where he had me walking around the house naked. He would say stuff like, I want to take pictures of your body parts. Just awful. And it was just getting so bad until and one time he got angry at me because I was laughing, and he took a broom and beat me with it. And because I wouldn't do what he wanted to do. And I didn't have nobody to talk to. Nobody. Because my grandmother already didn't believe in me, and all my aunts and uncles, she was already telling them, she was telling the whole community, hey, this girl is crazy. And they was like, you don't think she could do it? No, she can't do anything. She's crazy. So I didn't have the confidence to go tell my grandmother that, hey, I'm being molested. So I didn't know who to tell. And it was getting so bad till he was just begging me. And I don't know what he did to me while I was having seizures, because I was still having seizures at the time. But it was getting to the point where he was just begging me to have sex with me. Like, I gotta sleep with you. I gotta have sex with you. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I remember I wrote it in the book where I was saying, because I didn't know what molestation was. And I was saying, well, I said, I'm affecting your marriage. And he was like, no, you're not affecting our marriage. We can do what we want to do. You young, you're going to do it anyway. So why not let me share this sexual experience with you? And so it was just getting bad till he wanted to have sex with me. And I didn't have nobody to talk to. I'm like, who to talk to? So I'm like, what do I do? So that's when I turned, and I wrote a story in there. I was about 14, 15 years old, getting sexually molested, not talking about it. And so these ladies came to our home church, and it was like there was prophets. I'd never seen them before again in my life. So I seen them prophesying on people, and I just ran up to them in faith, and I asked them to pray for me, and I told them that I had seizures. She prayed for me, and she said, when you turn 18, you won't have any more seizures. And she told me, she said, you're going to be a minister. She said, I see that on you. And I received it because I was tired of having seizures. I had grand mal seizures. So, and my child molester was like standing in the background, seeing all this, because he was a deacon of the church. So when I hit 18, that's when I was just like, I'm really getting tired of this man begging me for sex. So I was like in high school, and that was my first time before, I knew about church, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't want to be saved because my family was crazy.
Right.
The perspective of Jesus Christ coming through them, I was afraid to give my life to Christ because you got the grandmother that's a minister. She's in the pulpit preaching about God, but then when I come home, everything I preached about faith now in my home is irrelevant. Then when all my aunts got saved, because they was under that Pentecostal experience, they went crazy. They went that just one aunt I wrote about in the book, which is the aunt I was telling you that I was on the ministry with. She joined this church and she just went crazy. I'm just like for instance, I always share this story with my friends because it's so funny. We was at this church one time at her first church before she became a pastor, and it was just an odd setting when you go in there. The pastor literally looked like a witch. I mean, it had this bad smell. The pastor made her oils, and she didn't. When the people got up to testify, it was never about glory to God. It was about what the pastor did for me. When the pastor laid hands on me, it was like they was idolizing the pastor.
Right.
And so one point, it was these ladies at the altar, and they was dancing like Hawaiian. The little hula dance.
Mm-hmm.
They was just moving, and their hands was like this, and hands was like that. I always share this story. It's so funny.
Yeah, that would definitely, in my church, you get walked right on out the door.
Yeah. So my uncle was like, "What is they doing?" And my auntie said, "Well, they moving their hands like this." And she was like, "Well, they just trying to keep the spirits in the church." He said the spirits was already be here. So why are they doing it?
And there's only supposed to be one spirit in the church, the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. So I seen all that coming from them. And I had two other aunts that got saved. And the guys that they was messing around with, instead of getting to learn them, and as a Christian, they say it's better to marry than to burn. So instead of getting to learn the spouse that they was with and asking God to hold them up before they got married, time they got saved, they went and got married. Now one aunt, she married her, I guess the guy she was messing around with, and they've never lived together. He lives with another woman, and he had children by her, and seeing he had children by her, and he never stayed with her, so he would go back and forth. That's what goes on in small communities. But seeing all that, I'm like, I don't know if I want to be saved because that's confusing.
Right.
So, but finally, God showed himself to me for who he was. And that's when I was walking up on the football field for practice at school. I was about in the 12th grade. And I heard this voice that said, "Alexis, you finna get saved." And that was the first time. I was always journaling, writing, because I couldn't express myself with my mouth. Well, I had no opinion or nothing. So I've always was writing. So that's why I love to write now. But I had never heard God speak back to me. And it was like he was giving me, he was preparing me to come into my life. And so at the age of 18, because the sexual molestation was getting too bad, I was like, I need a way out of this. I know I can't go to my grandmother, but she's not going to believe me. I know I can't go to my aunts. Nobody's going to believe me. What do I do? So they had a revival at the church, and I walked up and I gave my life to Christ. And I didn't spit all over the place. I didn't roll over the floor. I didn't do all of that. And the sinner's prayer, and I just believed. And I gave my life to the Lord, and I had this freedom. And what I started doing, I started locking up in my room because I was still living with my grandmother and her husband. And I just started reading my Bible. And he would bang on the door, still trying to molest me, but I just held on to God. And then he touched me one more time, but after that, he never touched me again. And I just began to grow in God. And then I began to learn. Then I went through this stage of guilt of being molested. And I'm like, I'm sorry, God. And the Holy Spirit would just tell me, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And then I was watching Oprah one day, and this guy was explaining about molestation. And it just hit me like a light bulb went. I'm like, I didn't have an affair. I was molested. So I began to study what that was and how he groomed me and everything. And it's just so much more in there. It's just this book. It just really speaks to the culture of a small community. Of
Right.
you can be in a small community. And then people really look up to you. Because like some of the ladies, so it was one lady that purchased the book when I first got the first 10 copies, and she was from Chatham, and she finished the book and she said, I never knew you went through all of that. I never knew that your life was that hard, and I lived not too far from you. And because my grandmother is like a hero in Chatham. Everybody look up to her, and everybody just thinks she can do no wrong, but behind closed doors, it was hell. It was hell. So I overcame that, but I was still in a void. And that's where I went to my aunt. And whew, Lord, I went through with that. She had us just doing crazy stuff. She would fall out on the floor and her eyes would roll back in her head. And my grandma would get down in there and slap her in her face.
Try to tell her having a seizure almost.
Yeah. Yes, it was just crazy. And I didn't understand all that because that's what I had grew. Even though I had became a Christian myself, that's what I was still under, that mindset.
Right.
And so she would start making her own oils, and she would videotape everything in the church. And I really put things together when I left her church. I didn't understand everything that she was doing. She would videotape the whole church service, and then she would go home and watch it. And it would be like 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd go to sleep. So what she was doing, she was studying everybody movement in the church.
Mm-hmm.
How they shout, who went to the bathroom, who was paying attention to her while she was preaching. And then she would sort of study your body language. That's what witchcraft is. You really feed on body language and information. Because she had all the members, like, we couldn't call nobody but her. I didn't have no friends. And she said she's my only friend. So she would come back to the church after studying and stand up for hours, then she'll give out a false prophet, give a false word, because she just studied the body language. And so she was making oils. It was horrible. And she was trying so hard to get me with that mindset. And I just wouldn't give in. And I got fussed at. I got embarrassed. I got money taken from me. It was horrible, horrible. So I finally left there. And then I tried to be with my cousins and my sisters and my brothers, and turned out they didn't want to have nothing to do with me neither. Turned out the whole family don't like me. So finally, in 2013, I moved here to Mobile, Alabama by myself. I knew nothing about driving on the interstate. I knew nothing about this place. And when I came here, because I had been so isolated, it was like New York City.
Right.
I was like, there's a McDonald's on that street. Then there's a McDonald's on that street. And Walmart, oh my gosh, I loved Walmart. I didn't even get to go to the beach till I was like 27. That was my first time going to the beach. And I'm like, oh, this is life. And I don't have to be controlled. I don't have to be I don't have to be scared. I can make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes and God still loves me. I don't have to be judged by the pastor. I don't have to be told stuff, you're going to die if you don't be obedient to me. Oh, it was just great. But then I realized with all that freedom, I sort of turned away from God
Mm-hmm.
because they was what I represented. That's what I looked up to see Jesus in them. And so I got a little loose out here in Mobile, but I realized looking back, it was because of all the hurt. My dad wasn't there. I shared a story about my father, how my mom was absent, my brothers and sisters wasn't around. My brother Tom was in Jacksonville, and my other sister was back in Chatham, and my older brother was in the Navy, so they wasn't there for me. And so I was trying to explore things, but it was really when Tom, because he had almost died in 2008, but it was really when my brother died of HIV and AIDS is when I really, I woke up and I said, okay, God, I've ran from you too long. My brother's death was a wake up call for me, and I really began to get my life together and learn who this God is. And I learned that Jesus Christ is nothing what is being portrayed in these churches. He's nothing of what your family think he is. Once you get that personal relationship with him, then you will know who he is for yourself. And I learned to love on God more at home in my personal time than in any church, because so many pastors get caught up in the pulpit. They get caught up in, being the head over people, being controlled over people. And they want to give you this idea of who Jesus is so you can stay and serve and enslave at their church. That's their goal. So, and then after, I became to reality, I began to heal. And then I met my husband, Sam. We met in 2014. And he became like a great blessing to my life. And we dated for like 6 months.
Alexis, we've lost your audio. You had just met Sam, and you said he was a great blessing in your life when you cut out.
Yes, he was amazing, blessing to my life. We got married, and the kids never stopped. we've been we've been married for we're going on 6 years of marriage, December the 14th, no, December the 19th, and we done had 6 babies
Oh, wow.
every year. The
How are you
first,
still standing?
by the grace of God and by choosing to live through it, because so we done had a baby every year. The first 4, Zachariah, Zipporah, Zoe, and Zane, they are born in November. So their birthdays
Okay.
are 5, 7, 10, and 12. And then the miscarriage baby, she would have been due January the 9th.
Okay.
So I named it Zion. And then now this baby that I'm pregnant with now is due December the 7th.
Okay, hold
And
off till the 15th. That's my birthday.
okay, I can try December 15th.
Yep.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm going to last that.
Nah, probably not. Babies come when they want to come. None of them
Yes,
want to come on my birthday, so.
yes. Oh, but I'm ready now. No, I'm not. Well, I'm not going to say that because I'm just only 17 weeks, but I'll be glad when December the 7th comes. I'll just say that.
Right.
I want a healthy baby, and now I'm currently going through that walk of, of course I lost Zane, and now I'm pregnant again, and then I had a miscarriage, so I'm walking through all that fear
Mm-hmm.
of what could happen to my child if I could have a miscarriage or something could go wrong at birth. So I'm literally, everyone see me happy and excited, but I'm fighting fear, literally,
Right.
because to lose a baby, a full developed baby that you get to bring home, and then 4 months later you have a miscarriage.
Right. That's just
Yes,
the worst.
yes,
It's every
yes.
mother's nightmare.
It is. It is. And
So,
so, okay.
can you tell us a little bit about what happened with Zane?
Yes. Zane was born November the 5th, 2018. And I'm telling y'all, that baby, during my pregnancy, which I'm doing a part 2, it's going to be called I Choose to Live Too, The Life and Loss of Zane, because I use that same title, I Choose to Live, because I had to choose to live through it, and I had to
Right.
choose to live for him. But he was born November the 5th, and during the whole time of pregnancy, Sam and I really struggled. I mean, we struggled hard. But he his birth of having him, because he was supposed to come November the 18th, but he came November the 5th. And I'm telling you, I laughed through that whole pregnancy. While I was in labor, I was just laughing, like, because I was scared, really, because I hate going to hospitals, but the joy that that baby brought me in labor and delivery was amazing. And he came one push, that's it.
Nice.
And he was out, and he was so beautiful. And previously, before we had him, my husband and I was already studying about vaccine, because our
Okay.
first child, Zachariah, is vaccine injured. He has eczema, and he can't eat fish. And I hope they ain't in my front room. I heard them because I got them in the room. I got I got kids, but I
Mine
heard.
just started to come down again. Like these kids,
Yes.
normally they're pretty good. They'll come down once or twice, but today it's like a revolving door. Like, come on, children, you know what I'm
Exactly.
doing.
So, I had Zachariah. He got all his shots up to 18
Okay,
months. So he had we had to rush him to. Hold on one second. I just want to
sure.
make sure they're in the room. Hold on
I
one second.
understand. For those watching that may not be familiar with vaccines or just starting to look into vaccines, most of us who don't vaccinate have at some point vaccinated our previous children, and then something happens to one of our children in the process, and that's when we start looking into things. Many people think that people are anti-vaxxers. I was just filling the silence explaining
Okay.
that a lot of people, we start off vaccinating our kids like normal, and then
Yeah.
it's not until something happens that we go back and look
Exactly.
into things, and we're like, we don't know until it happens to us. And so we're not necessarily anti-vaxxers. A lot of us are ex-vaxxers.
Exactly. Exactly. I apologize for that. He done got out the gate.
No. We're all parents. We all get it, and we're all doing what we can, and somebody's got to take care of the kids.
Yeah. So
Usually it's
I mean,
us.
that's the one I was talking about, Zachariah, which when he was 1, I know he was 18 months. He was about 18 months. And I gave him a cashew, which we had been doing the shots like normal, and gave him a cashew. And when I was driving back home, he was just made this horrible scream. And he just started vomiting like yellow stuff. It looked like plastic. And I pulled over to the car, and I had my friend to call 911 because it looked like he was short of breath too.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was rushed by the ambulance, and we got to the hospital, and the first thing they asked, have you had all his shots? And I'm like, yeah, he had all his shots. And they said, oh, he got hives. He'll be all right. So they sent us home, and me and Sam was like, this don't add up. This don't make sense. It just didn't, it just wasn't adding up for us. It wasn't enough to tell me that he had hives. Oh, he'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam went on YouTube. Well, he saw something on Facebook, and he was like, this is it. It was like a light bulb came on. Like, oh my gosh, this is why he's sick. So we went to YouTube, and we found the truth about vaccines. I mean, I watched that whole episode. Then which I found Vax. And I was like, oh my, I just cried because here I was injecting my baby with these vaccines, and I didn't know.
Right.
And so Sephora had already got the vitamin K and the Hep B, and she got 2 month shots, I think, because she was about 4 months when I took when Zachariah was 18 months. Now Zoe, which is my third baby, that one is a character, but she didn't get any shots because we went in the hospital and we said none, and they didn't even. When I had her, they was like scared to even touch her. But we had a birth plan and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it came down to Zane, we told the doctor about how we felt about shots, but we didn't study circumcision. We really didn't. We really didn't key in about circumcision. So we told the doctor that we don't want any shots, but he said that if he's a boy and he gets circumcised, he would need that vitamin K shot. So we didn't know all what we know now about
Right.
circumcision. So we said, okay, we've been with this doctor for 4 years. He delivered all of our babies. And why not trust him? Because, he basically was that doctor does deliver the baby. And he's, then I take him to a pediatrician or whatever. But we was like, okay. And I really didn't, because I was going through so much financial struggles while pregnant with him, with Zane and my husband, we were just having a hard time. And I feel guilty about this now. And even though I know it's not my fault, but I should have took the time to really study about the vitamin K.
Right.
And I didn't.
And a lot of people, they hear vitamin K shot and they don't think anything of it. They're like, oh, it's a vitamin. It can't be bad. But I just want to let people know that the vitamin K shot, if you take the package insert, not the little piece of paper that the doctors give you, but the actual insert that comes with the medicine, the vials that explains all the side effects stuff, that comes with a black box warning. And that is the strongest warning that the FDA gives. And none of the other vaccines have that. Vitamin K is a vaccine.
It
People
is.
don't
It is.
realize that.
But the what's it called? The CDC do not categorize vitamin K with the rest of the vaccine.
Right.
So for me, I am still working for justice for him. That's an opportunity for me to go to regular court instead of going to the underground CDC court. Because if he was killed by the Hep B, then I could file with the court with the CDC. But because it's a vitamin K and they don't categorize it as a vitamin, I can go to regular court. And so I'm back up to when he was born.
Sure. Sorry, I sometimes jump ahead.
Okay. It's okay. Well, he was born, and the first thing they injected, we got it on video. The first thing they did when they pulled him out of me, gave him that shot. And we didn't think nothing of it. Sam says it's hard for him to watch that. It's hard because we watch him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just had the baby. And she just put that needle right on in it. And so the second day of his life, when I was in the hospital, he started dripping milk from his nose.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, I asked the nurse, I said, he's dripping milk. Here, I breastfeed him, and then you can see the white milk just coming out. And she said, that's normal. And so it's okay, it's fine. And I was like, okay. So we get home about 2 weeks in. He's sleeping really good. I'm adjusting to him. The kids are adjusting to him. 2 weeks later, he's vomiting really bad. And then he got this cough like, it's just, his whole body was just shaking. It was horrible. And Sam just kept saying, something ain't right with this baby. And I took him the first time, and I said, he had this bad gag when he coughed. And the doctor said, oh, he's fine. Just sit him up and burp him. He'll be all right. They didn't say anything. They didn't do anything. No blood test or nothing. Took him back again, and the second time, do you want to get him vaccinated? No, I don't want him on vaccines. Just my regular health check. He was still vomiting, and then it got to the point where he would not sleep without somebody holding him. I'm telling you, I got no sleep while he was here. I was exhausted, and my husband was exhausted. Right. Due to we was already having financial pressures. So Christmas Day, he cried. Christmas Eve to Christmas Day of 2018? No, yeah, 2018. He cried the whole night, just crying, crying, crying. So my husband got aggravated and said, take him to the doctor. Take him. And I was like, they ain't gonna do anything. No, you need to take him. So I took him and went in, and he was calmed down because it was daytime, I guess, because he cries at night and then he'll go sleep at daytime. And the nurse was like, he just probably got gas. And she said, I'll never forget these words. She said, it's Christmas Day. Let's get you out of here. And I went back home. Still no blood test ran, nothing, just a regular checkup.
Wow.
So by January, New Year's Day, I was burnt out. I had just found me a job, and I had put him in daycare. And so the first week of my orientation, Sam is calling me, Alexis, Zane, they've been calling us. Zane got a fever, blah, blah, blah. So I had to leave the job. By the time I got to him, the fever was gone. And by that time, I was frustrated. Like, I don't want to go back to the doctor.
Right.
He fine. He was fine. I'm like, I just didn't want to believe that something was that bad. Because babies throw up. I done had 4. But then, the fever, he was fine that night. And still, I wasn't getting no sleep. He got comfort of when I was breastfeeding him. So the last time I took him to daycare before January 1st, he had gotten so big. And I thought, he's growing fast. I was breastfeeding. And then the teacher, and actually, this part I'm going to talk about, I'm working on that book, so I actually just wrote about it. And when I went to go pick him up, he was dripping milk from his nose again. And the daycare teacher looking like, we never seen nothing like that. And I still kept telling myself, he's okay. He's okay, because the doctor said he's fine. So we went home. So January, that last weekend, I had lost that job. And so I was upset. It's like, Lord, when you gonna let me help my family? So after I lost that job, and then I came, I had another interview. So that weekend, we all spent the weekend together. I took pictures of the babies. Sam's mom came over to hold him. And then that Monday was my interview. So I fed him, and I left some milk out for Sam because, I was going to be gone. So when I returned back home, I didn't get the job, and I was just upset. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't get the job. And Sam was like, it's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. So I told him, I said, well, I got to go to the park because I don't want to take out my anger on the family. I got 4 babies, my husband. So I went to the park. I didn't even get out the car. So by the time I checked my phone, and Sam called me. He said, Zane's not breathing. I'm like, what? What you mean? So I got back to the house, opened the door, and he was gone. Sam was like, he had the phone to his ear. He was holding the baby like this, but I saw the arm just lifeless. And that's when I knew, and I just screamed. I fainted, got back up, screamed, fainted, went to the tree. Who saw me? I was like, God, if you just save my baby, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. Went back in the house. Sam's still on the phone calling 911. So I'm going to jump on the phone. We had some neighbors to come to do CPR because Sam was in shock. He was holding the baby, and the baby was out. So I put him on the table. The 911 people like, is there anything in his mouth? I'm like, no. I'm like, when are y'all going to get here? This has been like 45 minutes and passed. And nobody still hadn't came. So finally the ambulance came, and that was a nightmare along with him gone. I don't understand it. As what's going on in our culture now is the Black Lives Matter and the Blue Lives Matter, the Black versus all that stuff. And I had never experienced that kind of trauma until I lost my son, because how they treated my husband, which I understand you have to look into us because you don't know what you're coming into. I understand the police side, but I also understand my side.
Right.
So the police, we had 4 cops come to our house. I couldn't ride in the ambulance with them. They wouldn't let me ride. No, they didn't let me ride in the ambulance with Zane. I had to tag them to the hospital. So they told the ambulance, told Sam, you stay here. So Sam never made it to the hospital. They told him to get the kids, that a friend come get them. Friend had to come get him. He told me, and police busted up in the house, said this is a crime scene investigation. And Sam like, yeah. He was like, what you mean? You know, and then they set him in the police car for 3 hours. And they kept asking him, are these your kids? Are these your children? He said, all of mine. So I'm at the hospital, and as soon as I get to the hospital, they told me, they was like, he's not gonna make it. And I'm like, what you mean? So I waited some more because they said they had got a pulse, but they didn't. And then a cop came in, and she was so cold. And then they had 3 cops at my baby's room. And I just like, why y'all treat me like a criminal? I couldn't even see him. They had me locked up in a room. They had Sam in the police car, and our baby's with a friend. And so that's why me, you know, and people may not like what I have to say about what's going on now, and this is my opinion. I do not support Black Lives Matter, because if Black Lives Matter, then somebody will be protesting for my son. You know, right. the hypocritical that's behind that. It has, when a white man kills a Black man. Am I saying that I agree with him die the way he did? No, I do not agree with that. I do not. It was wrong. But what the media does, they put that in our face over and over and over and over again, and they want us to get angry and go out there and do something stupid. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's not gonna bring my child back, and it's not gonna make a difference by destroying everything. So when I see that on Facebook and all this, I don't even talk about it. I just try to give the people a happy vibe, what God is doing in my life. I don't like into that, because when I talk about it, I get angry, because George Floyd, according to the reports, you know, I don't know, but they said he had a criminal record. Did he deserve to die like that? No, he didn't. But my husband, Black man, have no criminal record. None. 0.
Still in the back of a police car.
Yeah. But this Black man was denied rights to see his son. And automatically the police thought that he killed the baby, because they stigmatized us because we're Black, because we're from the African, and they probably seen other cases like where the mom walks off and leave the baby, and you have the dad. They probably assumed that wasn't his kid. He didn't like the baby, so he done something to him. So they assumed, instead of getting the right information,
right,
we were stigmatized by the system. But they're not going to show that on Black Lives Matter. They're going to show you what they want to show you, so you can get up and go do something stupid. And then they can bring in martial law.
Right.
You know, so that's why when I see stuff like that, I know the history. I've studied the history of Black Lives Matter and who funds it. A lot of people don't know that George Soros funds Black Lives Matter. He funds that. And who is that? He's a white man. So why he's an upper class, rich white man that's funding Black Lives Matter to destroy our own communities? And so when I see stuff like this, when I see people walking around with a mask on, talking about I can't breathe, I'm like, you idiot. that's just how I feel. No, I'm not gonna wear that. You know, if I want to protest something, it's gonna be about my baby, because my child was Black. My baby was a Black baby, and nobody
matters.
Yeah, and his life mattered, and he didn't do anything. He was innocent, and he was murdered by the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
And then like I hate the hypocrisy behind also Black Lives Matter. It's okay for a Black man to get killed by a white man. That's when everybody get mad. But what about all these abortions?
Exactly.
What
That's
about,
been weighing so heavy on my heart lately. And,
yes,
a
what
lot of
about,
people don't know about Margaret Sanger and what she believed in. She
exactly,
believed in eugenics, and her purpose for starting Planned Parenthood was to decrease the Black community population.
exactly. And then, and when I see other women, Black women, they want to say Black Lives Matter, but then when you talk about abortion, oh, it's my choice. No, it's not your choice. This baby that I'm carrying has its own heart,
Mm-hmm.
its own blood, its own eyes, its own ears. The only thing that's connecting us is the umbilical cord.
Exactly.
I'm nurturing the baby by feeding myself, by taking care of myself, but he has his own hands on everything.
Yep.
So what gives you the right to kill a baby?
Exactly.
So when I seen all this going on, this pandemic and Black Lives Matter, I get angry about my son. And then I look at the community, this is Mobile, Alabama, and that incident with George Floyd happened in Minnesota.
Right.
So a lot of people in this area know what happened to my son, but after the funeral was over, I didn't have no friends. Nobody didn't come and help me and ask how. But as soon as you see somebody in Minnesota that's been placed, they putting this junk in our face, trying to make us angry. And now you want to do a protest here in Mobile? It was a Black lady that just got shot by another. They hadn't found the person, but more likely it was another. Her son had got killed, and then turn around. This lady was driving in her car and she got shot. What about the Black on Black crime? Nobody's saying nothing about that. Her life did. I don't know George Floyd. I know Zane.
Right.
I know Zane because I carried him, and I know he was Black. But that's why I keep my peace about it, and I go pray about it. Like, Lord, don't let me make a decision out of my feelings. Because when my son died, you best believe I wanted that hospital to feel what he felt.
Right.
And then getting the autopsy report back, I was like, I said, if it's SIDS, I rest my case. I wasn't gonna do nothing. I was like, I would study SIDS. I didn't really connect SIDS with the vaccines
Mm-hmm.
because I was just in my mind. I'm like, it's SIDS, I'm done. I ain't gonna do anything else. If it's time to die, I'm done. Got the autopsy report back, which that took forever. It said sepsis associated with viral and bacterial infection. Then it had parafluenza on his death, not death, but on the autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lady, her name is Cherie Sanders, and she is another lady that's working with her. Her name is Beth. They are white. They have held my hand through this all the way up to now to help me get justice for my son.
Good.
And so Cherie Sanders, she broke down his autopsy and she told me that Zane's was like an alcoholic. It was mushed. He had hemolysis. I hope I'm hemolysis. I think I'm saying it right. He weighed 15 pounds at death. 15, he looked like a 6-month-old baby.
Wow.
All his organs and stuff was just gone because that sepsis.
So not to tear the scab off the wound, but from what you're describing, it sounds like this was a very slow process. Like he was spent his entire life dying.
Yeah, he did. And she told me, which I knew this through the Holy Spirit, but she said he's supposed to have been dead. She said the breast milk, because breast milk does a lot of things for the baby.
Right.
That's why it's so important that a baby get that mom's milk instead of formula. But she said that's what kept him here longer. Because the antibiotics in the breast milk was trying to fight it off,
yep.
But it couldn't anymore. And so his body just shut down and he died. So
that poor little baby.
Yes. I mean, he's my hero because he was so cute. He tried to stay here. His spirit was trying to be a normal baby, but that sickness overpowered him and the Lord took him home. So after I got the autopsy, that's when I started calling lawyers. And no lawyers won't take it.
Right. It's
They
such a
won't take it.
controversial thing.
Yes, it's you're going up against the hospital, you're going up against the police, you're going up against the ambulance, because I have a case.
Right.
But they
Well,
won't.
the lawyers that do go up against this stuff, they end up losing their licenses. We
Yep.
had an attorney out in on the East Coast. I can't remember exactly where Alan was at, but they crucified him.
Mm-hmm.
Just crucified him, and
Mm-hmm.
he ended up losing his law license
Mm-hmm.
for it.
Yeah, yeah. Or they end up dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, we done got lawyer and then one lawyer knew I had a case. This is just so crazy because I was doing everything. I was getting the lawyers, giving my studies over to Cherie. Let her study, she gave me the information of what happened to him. I'm the one who was calling the labs. I had to go through the district attorney to get his blood sample and his tissue samples and have permission to get a test. And just when I'm going to get a test, they tell me they can't test. So, and the lawyer is sitting back seeing me do all this work. He said, I will not take your case until you show me proof. I'm like, but you're the lawyer. That's what you're supposed to do all of this. He said, I can't take it until you give me that test of such and such and such. And I'm like, So
Have
I
you
haven't
connected with Katie Clovis?
Katie Cloak, yes. I follow her on Facebook, and I've seen her story about Evie.
You really should reach out to her and introduce yourself. I'm willing to bet she'd talk to you about, what she's done, because she's fighting the same system
Mm-hmm.
up here in Minnesota, and she's
Mm-hmm.
made some major strides. So she might be able to give you some pointers.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm friends with her, but it's hard. Like, it's a possibility that, like, I know I was following Katie's story where she was saying the autopsy report, they lied about some of her baby's tissue sample. It's the same thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get him tested for G6PD because he possibly could have had that in his bloodstream. And then when I'm calling the labs, they act like they don't know what G6PD is. I'm like, you know what it is. You just don't want to get it tested.
Right.
So, then having to go to the district attorney to get your baby sample, I don't think that's right.
No, I don't think so either.
That's my baby.
Yep.
So I went through all that last year, and after going at the lawyer, this lady at the lab, she was trying to get my test done, help me get my test done. I paid for it and everything. But after it came back and they act like they couldn't test it, they were saying that his blood was in a wrong tube. So the Alabama Department of Forensic Files may have put his blood in a wrong tube, and that contaminates the blood.
Okay.
So that's another lawsuit, possibly. Because
Sounds
they
like
cover
you've got your work cut out for you.
Yes. So they're covering up a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, when this lady told me, she said, because she spoke to the lawyer and he just still won't move. She said, Alexis, you may have to represent your baby yourself. And I'm like,
You shouldn't have to.
I don't know the law like that. And she said, you may have to, because ain't nobody these lawyers is not going to do right. And she just really encouraged me. And she said, God will give you the strength that you need. And I said, okay. So by that time I was done. I was like, you know what, Lord, this is in your hands. I can't do this no more. I can't keep fighting like this. I'm trying, but I don't have I got 3 other kids. I got to take care of them too. And so Cherie called me and she said, Alexis, I found this lady named Beth, and she's an advocate and she knows the law up and down. And she said, she's going to help us get justice for Zane. And I just cried. And I told her, I said, Cherie, I don't know the law. She said, but we'll teach you. We will teach you everything you need to know, and we'll help you all the way. And I just cried. And then I found out more information because we're still doing our research. It's not like just because I don't post about it a lot, but trust me, mommy's still on her job because that was my baby.
Right.
But she told me also that in the ride to the ambulance, they overdosed him on medication.
Oh no.
Tubes was in the wrong place. I hope I'm saying it right, but some to the fact where a student put the tubes in him and not a doctor. And according to the laws that a doctor's supposed to see, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Right. Well, and
So
you hear about that stuff happening with, especially like when people are put under anesthesia, students come in and do stuff. Um, there's been cases of women, while under anesthesia for surgery, a student comes in and gives them a pelvic exam.
yep.
So people deserve to know if there's a student working on them or their children.
Exactly.
You should know, and you should have the decision whether or not you want a student to work on you or your child.
Exactly. And even when Zane's life, it was a student in training that said, oh, just sit him up and burp it. Now, I wasn't really paying attention, but looking back at it and looking at his medical records, I'm like, wow. So I wasn't really taken seriously.
Right.
So knowing all this information that I learned about Zane, I had my kids in daycare. I pulled them out. I pulled them out because in the daycares, they want you to vaccinate your kids.
Right.
And then the program that I had my kids under, they want to go far as looking at your medical records. They want to teach you how to raise your children.
I've never heard of that. That must be, they don't do that here in Iowa, but
it's called the Early Head Start program.
Okay.
And they come to your house, and I kept asking them, I'm like, are y'all Child Protective Services? Are y'all affiliated with them? They're like, no, we just, because we're a federally funded program, we have to do all of this. I'm like, okay. But after my son died, they were so rude to me. It's like, they told me that my daughter Zoe has hands and foot disease. And I went to that school and I let them have it. I lost it because number one, I keep telling you, I don't want to go back to no doctor. I just lost my son. Going to a doctor is traumatizing to me. And so they was beginning to dig in my child's medical record, all my kids. And so I said I had enough. So I pulled them out. I was already going to homeschool, but I pulled them out and I got a night job and Sam got a day job. So we always rotating around our kids.
Yeah.
So my plumber man, he was working on something. Oh. So he was we pulled him out because they was not respecting our grief. They was in our business. They was trying to convince us to get the other 3 shots. I didn't like all that. You have no right to be in my children's medical records. And then we had to write down what we did with our kids and take it back to them in our spare time.
That's not their business.
Exactly. But it's a low income, federally funded program. And then when I went to the meeting, looking back, majority of the people that was there was African Americans. There were poor African Americans, had their kids there, and that's what the African American culture don't realize. Do you have to have a babysitter? Yes, because I'm gonna have to hire me one eventually, because I sometimes I need a break.
Right.
But
we all do.
When you put your kids in these programs, and they look at you because you're poor, and feel like they can help you up, and it's really and us as the African American community, we fall for that. We do. I'm Black. I grew up in that culture where, even with my grandmother was like, she looked at it as a disgrace. Like, she wanted more time to be at the to take time for children. So now what I'm doing the opposite. My family come first. I'm breaking those generational curses, saying, hey, my family come first. So I'm really paying attention to my kids. And so I pulled them out because they just didn't have no respect for Zane and his death. And it was just horrible. And now with this pandemic and stuff, it definitely ain't going back to no daycare. I'm gonna homeschool them and I'm gonna try my best to not let what happened to Zane don't ever happen to them. I don't want to go through this again.
Right.
This is a hard battle. And so
yeah,
I sent in a letter for forensic office because I have to do everything myself. And I believe that God is going to give me he's going to put people in my way to help me get justice for my son. But I was able to reserve his tissue samples and his blood samples for another year. And so that's a blessing. So that gives Cherie and Beth time to get everything together because they told me they going for it all. They're going for the police. They're going for the ambulance. They're going for him not getting treated. Everything. When I say everything went wrong with my son, everything went wrong. They're going for the vitamin K because the vitamin K has a black box warning, which is death.
Yep.
So they're going for that, and they said we're going to do everything. And Cherie always tell me, she said, Alexis, I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you blue, green, white, black. It don't matter. Wrong is wrong.
Exactly.
Wrong is wrong. And this baby should not have died like this. So I'm going to help you get all the help that you need. And so she has been a blessing to me. And also, Zane may have had G6PD. And see, I've learned about that it's found in, I think, Asians and African Americans.
Okay.
But the hospitals don't test for that. So that's the angle that we're going for. So Zane may had G6PD. I got tested with G6PD, but it didn't show up. But Cherie says the only way it shows up, you have to trigger it. So she said, don't go, I think people with G6PD can't eat lima beans and certain foods they can't eat. I don't eat lima beans. But she said I may had it and then he may had it. So that G6PD mixed in with that vitamin K caused him to have sepsis and he went downhill. So that's what we're trying to get tested for, get his samples tested for G6PD. And it's in God's hands.
Right.
I try not to worry about it no more as much as I did last year. I was doing all this while grieving.
Right.
So I've decided to just put it over in God's hands. And in time, I really believe that before this earth ends, I will be in a courtroom getting justice for my son. I believe that.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
And I would like for you to keep us updated on what happens with that because, very rarely do you get that opportunity to go into a courtroom just because I didn't know the vitamin K didn't go through the vaccine court, and that you could actually do an actual lawsuit over it. So that's really good to know. Because most people, they have to go through the vaccine court, which is a whole different ball game. And so I'm really interested to know how this turns out. I hope Zane gets his justice.
Yes.
And I'm really glad that you shared the part. I was going to ask you, because I know that a lot of people, when they have SIDS cases, Zane ended up not being a SIDS case, but when babies die, a lot of times the parents are initially looked at, but, to hear what you guys went through, that's more than what I've heard before from other people. And, I'm glad you shared all that because that scares people from speaking out and makes them feel like it might have been their fault. And people need to know, parents need to know that if your baby died of natural causes, we all know it's not natural.
Death certificate. They had natural causes, sepsis associated with viral bacterial infection. And that's not natural.
No, it's not. But, people need to know that their voice needs to be heard. And the more people that speak up and rise up, as Sheila Ely says, the more,
I follow her
there's
too.
more of us than there are of them. And if we all just stand up, they can't stop us all.
Exactly.
And these babies, somebody's got to stand up for these babies. And somebody's got to stand up for our children.
Got to.
Mothers are the last line of defense between the corruption and their babies.
Exactly.
So it's up to us. And, I'm sure you've seen Vaxxed. I think you mentioned that earlier. That's all about the corruption of the CDC. And that was specific.
I can't watch it. Like, before Zane died, I was watching it. But after they got a part 2 and a friend invited me to go watch us, I can't do it.
Yeah, I haven't seen part 2 yet. It takes me a while. I have my good days where I can listen to the stories all day. But most of the time I don't have my I thought for sure I was going to cry today, but I managed to not. But I mean, just those stories are heart-wrenching.
They are. They
but
are.
you know, the Black community has been targeted. You know, they falsified those studies and falsified those numbers and the data.
Yeah.
They are killing Black babies.
Black
boys specifically.
boys.
Yes.
Because I mean, take for example, I have 2 boys, Zachariah and Zane, and then the girls in the middle, Zipporah and Zoe. Zipporah done had a vitamin K and a Help B, but I stopped it. You know, she stopped getting shots at 4 months. She's perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
From what I can see, she's fine. Zoe has no shots, so she's fine. But the boys, my son, my living son, has long-term effects. He have eczema. He can't eat fish. He can't eat peanuts. And I have another son that's dead.
Right. So
do you see the greater effect on the boys than it is the girls?
Right.
So it's sad. It's sad.
Yep, it is very sad. And I ran group homes for years. I worked in the mental health field and all that. And you know, we always saw more autistic boys than girls. But it is amplified in the African American community, and it was like that by design. Yeah. And you know, we need.
I wish the community, our community, would wake up.
Yes.
Wake up.
And they started to for a minute there when Vaxxed first came out. There was some leaders that were holding community. This was out on the West Coast. They were holding town hall meetings and just telling everybody this is what is going on. And I don't know if they're still going strong at it out there. You know, I think it was in California, and we all know how it is in California. But yeah, we need to. All need to rise up, but we need, the Black community needs to speak up. Those who have seen it, they need to be waking up others. Because I mean, the reality is, I can talk all day long, but I can't go into your community and be like, hey, look, it's just not how it works anymore.
Especially now, it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Especially what's going on now.
Right.
Which like I said, I'm not studying that, but I wish the African American community would first heal your home. This is what this book right here is for me. Is breaking generational curses, healing my home, acknowledging what happened to me. I'm an African American lady in a Black culture where we have a poor mentality. Like I was saying, but my grandmother had such a poor mentality that instead of telling me you can be anything you want to be, she was like, I'm so poor, I can't make no money. So I'm going to use my granddaughter's sickness to get some money. So if we can, as a Black community, could heal within ourselves first. Let's talk about molestation. Let's talk about HIV and take the stigma off AIDS. Let's talk about religion that is just going wrong in our African American churches. Let's heal all of that. Then when we heal all of that, we can really see clearly what the media and the industry is doing to our community. But we can't see that because we're so caught up on, we're doing so many things wrong within ourselves that then soon as something pop up on TV, you're already distracted. The first thing to do is blame the white man. The white man got us enslaved. No, but I was telling another friend, she's African American. I'm like, Black people have the opportunities to work, buy a house. We can buy, we can go in the store and get what we want. We're not segregated. Oprah Winfrey is a millionaire. Kobe Bryant is a basketball, but plenty of basketball, but we have the same opportunities. So what is the problem? Why you keep saying the white man treats you wrong? You have the same opportunities as everyone else. What is really going on? And that's what I'm not too like crazy about Hollywood, because these Black celebrities, they got these positions to make a difference, but instead they're getting behind Black Lives Matter. Black throwing your fist up and making music about the cops and stuff. No, heal the home. Quit making rap songs about calling us bees and hoes. You disrespecting me as a Black woman. You're a Black man disrespecting me. So my thing is, if the Black community can heal within their homes, love each other, be a father to your kids, then you can clearly see what society is doing to us as a Black community. But we'll never be able to see that. We'll always be walking around. So it's another killing can come on the TV. Another Black man can get plotted and killed, and there goes Black. It ain't right. Y'all, the Black men, white men, yes, true. There was at one point, I'm not denying the history. There was at one point where Black people were in slavery by white people. But all white people are not bad. All white people are not the enemy. Their ancestors did that. Their ancestors, and then you come down to this generation, it's not like that. So I believe that if we take responsibility and start healing our homes, loving our children, then we can clearly see what the problem is. We can clearly see what medication does to us, what autism rate. We can clearly see what vaccine does, we can really understand abortion. Mm-hmm. Because, I had a friend, she's pregnant, and she told me, she said she was about to abort the baby, but what made her keep the baby is her only child didn't have a sibling. So she kept it. So that, I just don't think it's right to support Black women to abort their kids. But then here I am, a Black mother that had my child and sincerely care about mine, and the medical field just didn't pay me any attention. That's racism right there.
Yep.
Right in the hospital. They ain't talking about that. That's racism when you go and say, I don't want this baby, and a doctor can kill and abort your baby. Why nobody ain't talking about that kind of racism?
Right. Sorry, I'm looking for the Margaret Sanger quote, and I can't find it, where she explicitly states that her whole purpose for founding Planned Parenthood was to kill Black babies.
Yes. And I did my studies on that. And so the African American community has adopted that. They majority of them are being sellouts, like with George Soros. He's paying these people to destroy stuff and make all this anger. So and he's also funding the police. So he's funding both of it to cause chaos, so we can really get our minds off what's really going on in the White House. It's just a distraction.
Yep, it is.
It's a distraction. So, like I said, I've made a decision to heal my home by writing this book. And now, because of what I've been through, I can handle the death of my son even better. Because I'm not looking at it from a poor mentality, and I'm angry that my child died, but I'm not going to go to the hospital and blow it up, even though I wanted to. But right. That's not the right choice to do. They will lock me up and take my family away from me, and I can't do that. I got to let God handle this. So I know I keep saying it over and over again, but I just pray that us as African Americans heal our homes first, so we can really see what's going on. Population control is on the African American community. Mm-hmm. It is. It's either you're gonna die through abortion, or you get set up and get killed by the police. Like I said, I don't think that's right how it happened, but we don't know what happened behind the scenes. That could have been set up. He could have been set up to be killed.
Mm-hmm. Very possible. Anything's possible. I don't know anything past anybody anymore.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I'm not gonna just sit there and get racism in my heart, because what the media don't show is a Black woman and a white woman that's really good friends.
Right.
They don't show that a white woman and a Black woman, we can talk about, hey, some of my ancestors were slave owners, but you know what? That's not who I am. And then I can say, well, yes, I grew up with this certain way, but you know what? Learning you as a friend, I love you for you. You love me for me. Media is never going to show that. They always going to show the hate, right, so they can put hate in us. I don't do that. I love everybody. Majority, I can say this, majority of the women that have helped me get justice for Zane was white. I've had Black women that told me, oh, I'm gonna help you, and I ain't heard from him no more. My whole family, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, I had some cousins that came, but do you know none of them came to my baby's funeral?
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, none of them came. My mom said she couldn't come. My dad said, oh, I heard about that. Let me call you back. My cousins, they came, but they left. You know, we got into a little dispute about, one of my cousins kept saying, who was in this chat group, she kept saying she want to kill herself. And which I knew what she was doing. She was trying to draw the attention to herself
Mhm.
because, you know, she always did that when we were growing up. And I just called her out for what it was. And she got mad and everybody jumped on me and said I was wrong. And everybody left me while I was grieving the baby. So I had to immediately put that down and grieve my son. That's not important. So,
Right.
I mean, and this is an African American family.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that we see a white man kill a black man? Now we all together. We was never together from the beginning. So I'm like, I've had to walk through my grief. My mom know what it feel like to lose a child, but she's numb and Tom, but she don't even know how to help me
Right.
cope with losing my son. She never met Zane. My dad never met Zane. My grandma, none of them, they didn't show me that support. I had to walk through this alone. But what I'm doing now, I can't change the past of what they've done to me. What I am doing is changing now. Like
That's all we can.
for my son won't be like that. My daughters won't be like that. My marriage, I'm taking the proper steps to heal my marriage because Sam and I had never talked about losing Zane. We never went to counseling until now. We went through some things that just this past weekend, it had me to the point that I was ready to leave. I'm talking about I was done. But I sat down and I prayed about it and I'm like, is it worth walking away from a marriage? You still got a beautiful, good husband. And then I had to think about, he watched Zane die. I didn't.
Right.
That's traumatizing for him. So I had to understand his grief. So me and my husband are taking the proper steps to heal our home. We really looked at each other and said, you know, we haven't got counseling. So that's what we're doing now. We're talking about Zane and I have to encourage him that I know you're the man and I know that you want to be strong, but it's okay to shed some tears. That was your baby too.
Right. And
You know,
men
do,
they
yeah.
just don't like to show it, and you know, they feel a lot better if they just let it out.
Yes,
all the time.
so much better.
Show some emotion, let it out, and then you won't be so angry.
Yes, because
And he's angry because my husband's a weirdo.
Yes.
You don't have nothing like that he's had to deal with. He's just a weirdo. Typical man,
exactly.
Don't want to let it out.
You know, I'll be want to ask him in details what happened, but I like I was telling our therapist that I'm afraid to.
Right. Well, he might not be ready to share that yet.
Exactly.
I guess I'm not, I'm not a doctor or a therapist or anything.
No, you're right. You're right.
Having been through stuff myself, a lot of times we have to be ready to share that information. And we have to, just come about it in our own time. And, if he ever decides that he wants to speak out and he wants a platform, we're here for him too. He's more than welcome to come out and share his side of, his perspective of things too. Everybody needs a voice. Everybody needs to be able to share their story and be heard. It's really therapeutic, to be honest.
It is. And I am, we've started our first session and I'm loving it. I'm ready to heal because my thing is this: I don't want to be a hypocrite. Right. I don't want to be. I done put this book out, and I want to live what I spoke about, and I want that for my husband. And I know that it's been a year, so now it's time to talk about it because if you don't let it out, it'll come out in different ways.
Right.
It'll come out in this way, and you have to ask, what's really wrong? So. God is with us, and I'm so excited about healing my family. Like I said, if the African American community would look in the mirror and take time to heal, we would really see the bigger picture of what's going on in the world. Yep. But as long as we're distracted, our children will keep dying, our men will keep dying, and nothing won't make a difference. And I vow to let my son's memory make a difference in somebody else's life.
Well, we will do our part to help make Zane's story heard and give him a voice, give you guys a voice, and help you guys make a difference.
Yes.
So we will have down in the comments and on Facebook and in the description on YouTube, we will have a link for your book.
Okay.
So that people can go check it out, buy it if they would like to, and we'll put some information links down in there for information about some of the different things we've talked about today. We'll get information about circumcision in there and vitamin K shot and different things. That way the resources are readily available.
Yes.
I forgot how to speak for a second. So, well, it's been really good talking with you today, Alexis. Is there anything else you want to share before we go?
When you put the link down on the book, I choose to live out of the I can't get my word out of the shadows into the light. Available on Amazon. So when you put the link, tell people to type in the whole title, I choose to live out of the shadows into the light, and you will find it quicker on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble. I really ain't been promoting Barnes and Noble, but because I use Amazon more, but it's on Barnes and Noble as well.
Okay, well, I can go in and find the product link for both of them.
Okay.
And put those in there because I know some people are kind of boycotting Amazon. So that's good to know. I'll put the Barnes and Noble link in there too in case anybody wants it that doesn't want to purchase through Amazon.
Okay.
Whereas Amazon's at my house every day.
Yeah, I want to show you these dresses are so beautiful. I'm doing rainbow, but I love taking pictures, but I'm doing like rainbow colors for the baby and this dress.
That's adorable.
Yeah, so, and I'm getting my dress made, so it's going to be all the colors, and I love stuff like that. I got it from Amazon.
That's awesome. All right, well, I'm going to end the recording. We'll still be on, but the recording is going to stop.
Okay.
For our viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could please like this video and subscribe. And then on Facebook, if you just want to give it a like, give it a share, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.